Welcome back, everybody, to another live and amplified Indie Fusion podcast. I'm your host, Tom Quiet, and we have another special guest joining us here today. We have Arianna Pappas. I should have asked to qualify if that was correct, but my bad.
That's totally fine. It sounds great to me.
Awesome. Awesome. I was sitting here, I was like, as I was saying it, I was like, oh, I should have probably asked if I was going to pronounce it correctly, but we're here. But excited to have you here, excited to sit down and chat. Um, You're originally from Long Island. You live in Nashville now. So tell what was it like growing up in Long Island for you?
Yeah, so it's a little bit random. I don't meet many other people here from New York, so people definitely are surprised when I tell them about it. But it was, I mean, I now more than ever realize how lucky I was to grow up there, just because we're pretty landlocked here in Tennessee, and I grew up on the back of a boat. My father is a boater, so I'm a proud boater's daughter. Learned to walk on the boat when I was young, and it was just an incredible way to grow up, honestly. I miss it so much. I just love the ocean, and that along with the rock and roll and the classic rock and the blues that I grew up with as a kid. That was the beginning of my musical experience. And, a lot of that music was heard on the back of the boat. So, yeah, I got my love for music from my parents because they, were always playing it in the car, and they are music lovers, and my mom used to be a DJ, and my dad's a deadhead, so it just kind of was all there for me to be a sponge
Yes.
with. So yeah, I'd say my first love was definitely rock and roll. That is in my core, and later on the country music came, and that really set the tone for me as a songwriter.
Nice. That's really cool. And the two loves kind of play together really well, don't they? Like, because you could definitely incorporate a lot of rock elements into country music.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm still trying to find my sound, but I consider myself to be partially influenced by the rock I grew up with,
Hmm.
specifically with my vocals. Um, just the power, that I heard from a lot of artists growing up. It made its way just into the way that I sing and the way that I perform. And, I was just incredibly lucky to, get to hear that, hear all of those amazing artists and be influenced by their songwriting on a daily basis.
Nice. Awesome. Awesome. You'd mentioned that you're still kind of trying to find your sound. What's that process been like? Are you listening to like other musicians, or are you just trying to figure out what feels comfortable for you? Like what's that kind of process been like for you?
You know, I've been obviously influenced by a lot of different types of music, and I was also influenced by a lot of pop growing up. A lot of Kelly Clarkson, Katy Perry, Miley Cyrus. I was mentioning before how I was looking back on your past podcasts,
Mhm.
and you actually were saying that you had a sweet spot for Miley Cyrus. So I thought that was funny because, I was a huge fan of her back then. And just the powerhouse vocalists like Kelly Clarkson, and those songs that were hits and impacted so many people. That made its way into my songwriting over time, and I didn't even realize it. It was just this subconscious thing. And I think now I'm very much on more of the pop side with my songwriting. But you know on the new music I'm
Yeah.
working on, which I actually have not revealed this to anyone yet. It's definitely more towards what I am looking to do in the future.
Mm.
It's different. It's not scary different. It's different in a good way, I think. So I think people are really going to love, how my sound has changed
Mm,
with what is coming. So
nice,
I'm in the exploratory phase, I guess you could say, trying to
nice,
figure out where my, sweet spot is.
nice. That's really cool. And would you say that this exploratory phase has really kind of started to ramp up since moving to Nashville?
Absolutely. I think, I was influenced by country music for a long time before I even moved here. But, just being around all these new artists, I discover new artists all the time,
Mm,
and all of these other talented songwriters and musicians that I, live near or, that I went to school with. I graduated from Belmont University. Woo, go Bruins, in 2022. So, obviously that experience, I went to school with, a bunch of talented people that I learned a lot from. And yeah, I think I have definitely been influenced by a lot of artists that I didn't necessarily know about,
mm,
before I moved here. And that has definitely had an impact on me and my writing for sure.
nice. Now, when you say artists that you'd never heard of before, is that more like regional specific music, or like just because you're around so many independent artists that you, as you kind of gradually get yourself out into the scene, you start hearing more independent music than you probably would have in like Long Island?
More independent music,
Okay.
absolutely. And also signed artists as well,
Hmm.
that, may only be known by most of the country music community because, Nashville is a very small town in a lot of ways.
Mm,
And, I feel like a lot of the rest of the country doesn't realize, just how much music is out there.
hmm.
Most people are only listening to the radio or their respective parents music like I was at one point. So they're not realizing how many talented independent artists are out there creating all this new art.
Hmm. Absolutely. We're gonna have to bring you out to Texas and we'll just completely open the floodgates for you.
You know what, I'm actually going to Arlington in June.
Nice.
I'm going to see Chris Stapleton.
Nice. Nice.
I
Nice.
I am so stoked.
That's cool. What I like about Texas is it's got its own like musical economy, like music economy going on here. Like there's musicians that you've probably never heard of, but they are so famous here in Texas that
Wow.
they just make a living do because Texas, yeah, I mean, Texas is so big, you could literally do like a 3 week swing around Texas and do that on and off for an entire year, and that's your living.
I love that.
So it's really cool. It's really fun, and they've got their own thing going on down here, and I keep telling country musicians like just come and enjoy it. So,
I
but
definitely can't wait.
nice, awesome. Um, so taking a step back before we jump into your new single that dropped back in January, growing up in Long Island, you said that music was kind of always there. You had your dad who was a deadhead, and then your mom was a DJ, so it was very rock infused. Um, when did you kind of start to explore your own musical path, like singing, playing instruments, like whatever the journey was for you?
Yeah, so just over time, listening to so much of the rock that they loved, and between the pop on the radio that I was hearing, plus the country that I eventually started to discover, after the early Taylor Swift stuff. I can't have this conversation without mentioning her. I started to learn how to play guitar in high school, and I started writing. And I, at first was just, I don't know, seeing where it took me. And, I realized how therapeutic it was and that I could actually make it into a career for myself. And, you know, it was just so cool being able to put what I was going through into these songs. And I had no idea, that I would be releasing these songs one day.
Mhm.
That wasn't really a dream at the time, I don't think. I think I was just trying to figure out where in music I wanted to be, because I knew that I wanted to sing in some capacity, because
Yeah.
singing was my first love before anything. You know, and I've always been a writer. You know, I wasn't always writing songs, but I always loved to write, and I've been writing since I was very young. But yeah, I think the singing definitely came first, you know, and all those styles of music were meshing together subconsciously into my songwriting, my future songwriting brain. And then, you know, the guitar came along, and it was kind of just gradual. And then I started performing the national anthem when I was 17 for various sporting events in my
Hmm.
hometown. I'm happy to say that I have gone major league. I performed at my first Major League Baseball game last year, so that was
Nice.
incredible. But yeah, it kind of just, the ball kept rolling. It
Hmm.
was,
Nice.
you know, one after the other, all these different pieces of music coming together, and I had no idea what it would lead to, you know, if I'd ever get to release music one day, and what that process was going to be like. But it's just been the best unexpected surprise for me.
Nice. So you'd mentioned that you did a lot, or that or you graduated the major leagues because you were doing national anthem for sporting events, baseball events. In Long Island, what was it? There was a minor league baseball team in Long Island, or there still is, right? That who you were kind of?
So I haven't sung for them. I
Okay.
actually sang for the Cleveland Guardians. My
Okay.
family flew out to Cleveland last year in May, and it was just absolutely amazing. I mean, I did do I sang for Vanderbilt baseball as
Mm,
well, back in, I believe it was 2021 now. And then I did the Tennessee Titans 5K, Tennessee
okay.
Titans
Yeah.
Foundation.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
had a foot race, and yeah, it's they've kind of just popped up sporadically.
Yeah.
And you know, I've done various, you know, smaller sporting events, smaller teams.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been an incredible experience for sure.
Nice. That's really cool. It's always interesting because I when I was going through college, I thought that's what I was going to do, was like be involved with sports in some capacity, whether it was video production, marketing, management, like any of that stuff. Um, and so going through the process of selecting like national anthem singers was kind of our department's thing. Like we had to be heavily involved in it.
Right.
And that was kind of my first experience seeing music on an independent level, because you had people that would come in and they'd audition because they can sing. Like that's all they can do. That's all they want to do, is they just sing when they feel like it. Um, but then you'd have, every once in a while, you'd have like a musician that would come in and perform, and you could tell the difference like off the bat,
Right.
like because they went to school where I went to school, like whatever the reasons were, but you could just tell the difference, and it was really cool and a nice little interesting process to kind of see unfold.
I love that. That's so cool.
So, um, so is that something that you continue to do now, or is that kind of like just when it happens, it happens?
It's something that I've kind of put on hold for a bit, just because I'm concentrating on my original music for the time
Hmm.
being. You know, it's very hard to manage both at the same time, kind of,
Fair.
but you know, I'd rather be focusing on my original music right now, because that is the ultimate goal. But the national anthem is just, you know, kind of something that I pick up opportunities as I go along.
Fair, fair. And it gives you an opportunity to get out and see different things and participate.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
I get it. Awesome. Um, so you moved to Nashville in 2020. Um, was that always the goal to go to Nashville, or because, like, I mean, New York, it's a major city, so I'm sure it has its own musical scene going it on. Um, was it always the goal to go to Nashville, or what was the thought process there?
Oh no, like not at all. I only found out, see, I knew that country music, obviously I'd been listening to country for years and years.
Yeah.
Probably since I was about 9 or 10, my mom and I started listening together in the car, just driving around town. And, we would hear Tim McGraw, Blake Shelton, Miranda. Miranda was one of my, first biggest, influences. Carrie Underwood, all these different people that started to inspire me at the time. And yeah, I had no idea that Nashville even existed. I kind of just loved the music and I had no idea where it came from. I had no idea that, every artist singing these songs didn't necessarily write the songs. I had no idea you could be a songwriter for a job. I didn't know anything about the music business.
Nice.
So I was incredibly lucky to get to come to Belmont. I was so I graduated from high school in 2018, and then I went to a New York State school. It's called SUNY Purchase. It's in Westchester. It's about half hour north of the city, and it was a great experience. But they were definitely more well-versed in classical and jazz, and they didn't have country music, of course, because this is New York we're talking about. And I knew that if I stayed there, there was no chance of me making it in country music. So I knew that I had to make a change. And once 2020 came around, of course, what's coming in this story. I figured out in fall of 2019 that I wanted to, start looking at other schools. Applied to Belmont in February of 2020. A month later, we get the notice that we have to leave. And that was just such a shock. I mean, I had no idea what was going to happen. I finished up the semester online, and I had already dropped out of that last school. So, and then I also hadn't even found out, if I got into Belmont yet. So I was a nomad, basically. I was nowhere. I was not a current college student. So it was just a really weird time. And I was really scared. I did not know what was going to happen. And then in April, I got accepted to Belmont as just the general school. And then in May, I got accepted into the songwriting program, which I was just insanely excited about, because this meant a new opportunity, a new city, just something different, and, the hub of country music. And, I was going to get so much more in that world and be able to insert myself into the industry and into the business. It's something that I never would have been able to do in New York. So my parents and I made the 14-hour drive from the island to Nashville, and that was the beginning of my journey here. And that was in September 2020. So during my time there, I was online for about a year and a half, because that was, I was a junior when I transferred. And unfortunately, I didn't get to see Belmont pre-COVID, but it was still an awesome experience, getting to be here in town, despite everything that was going on. And yeah, Belmont just gave me such incredible opportunities, and I'm so grateful for them. I actually, this is kind of off topic, but I went to the Belmont at the Opry show a couple nights ago. And they had, incredible Belmont alumni, Ashley Borley, Nicole Gallion, Hillary Lindsay, all these people. Brad Paisley made an appearance, Trisha Yearwood, like insane lineup. Just all of these Belmont alumni that have had such a huge impact on country music. And it was such an iconic show. And yeah, I wouldn't have gotten here without them. So Belmont, that is. So yeah, it's so incredibly inspiring to be here and to experience the country music culture. And it's just an experience unlike any I've ever had before. So I'm incredibly grateful to be here. And yeah, Nashville, there's no place like Nashville, basically.
Right. Nashville is really cool. I was there back in February, and that had been the first time since before COVID. I'd went in January of 2020 and went back to February of this year. So it'd been 4 years since I've been to Nashville.
Wow.
And I this was like the first time that I was actually out interacting with people, like mixing and mingling with the public. Every other time I went there for a reason. I was doing podcasts or whatever. So it was just kind of like, okay, we're going to be in this area. We don't move. Everybody comes to us. That is what it is. And this time, you know, we were in a public facility, and, so it was kind of a different vibe. And that you're right, there is nothing like Nashville. So,
I love
but
that.
you'd mentioned that you don't run into a lot of New Yorkers in Nashville. Do you think it's because it is New York and a lot of people feel like I can stay in New York and still do what I want to do? Or
It's interesting because I guess I don't run into as many compared to the amount of people I run into who are from Texas and,
hmm
Alabama and
hmm
Georgia, and Florida's a big one.
yeah.
But I think definitely in the last, I'd say year and a half, I've met more for sure
hmm
because, every day more people are moving here. I mean, the influx of people is insane. And it's really cool because most of those people I'm meeting are also songwriters, who realized I need to come to Nashville too, because it was just, it's where you need to be. And yeah, it's been so cool because, I feel like I have an interrelation there, with people who are from, my home state. And that's always great. I mean, everyone knows how it feels to meet somebody who's from where they're from,
hmm
So that's, especially when I meet somebody from the island, it's just a really cool, networking
Yeah.
opportunity to have a friend.
Oh yeah. Especially when you're feeling like homesick or whatever, it could be like, oh, you remember this place, or have you ever been to this place? I mean, I'm sure Long Island's still pretty big, right? Like
Yeah, I
it,
mean, it's first of all, it's very long, of course,
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
we've got 7 million people there.
Oh,
So, I mean, a lot of people don't, a lot of people don't realize that, and yeah, it's crazy.
wow. I would have never put that one together. Like when I think of like islands, I think of like the Keys where maybe they have a couple hundred thousand, like the Florida Keys, they maybe have a couple 100,000, but 7 million, that just messes with my head.
Oh
So
yeah, oh yeah,
that's wild. Um, so you dropped a new song in January.
I
Uh,
did.
how's that been going for you? It's called Every Mile. How's the feedback been for you?
It's been great. I mean, it's been really fun getting to promote it. I've, been doing a lot of different marketing tactics to get it out there and get
Nice.
more people to hear it. But it's been such a great experience. I released it on January 26th. So everybody go check it out if you're watching.
Nice.
Would appreciate it.
Yeah.
But it's called Every Mile and it's about, just this carefree, romantic, you know, relationship that you have with someone where you're just jumping in and not thinking about it and just taking a chance, taking a risk with someone and, saying, you know what, to heck with it.
Mm,
I am going to pursue this with you, even though, we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what's around the corner, or around the bend. So let's
yeah.
go along with the the foreplay of the song. But yeah, that's the story behind it. I wrote it with my friend and songwriter Megan Irby. She's a poet in town, and I just love her writing. And we connected at Belmont actually, through the songwriting organization there, and we wrote it over Zoom because of course it was COVID. And it's yeah, it just is so hopeful.
Mm,
And that's the kind of music that I really want to make, is that music that has this joy behind it. I'm a super bubbly, positive person, so those are my favorite types of songs. I do have a lot of sad songs, but I, do also have a lot of happy songs,
Yeah.
which I think is important for every writer to have.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, it's been great. I've been, performing it around town, and I'm going to be actually getting out there to perform a lot very soon with a fellow guitarist, and we're going to be doing a duo set in town, so I'm really excited about that. We'll be performing it that way, and yeah, just getting everybody, or as many people as we can to hear it. It's super exciting for me.
That's cool. That's really cool. I love it. What I love about Every Mile, and and honestly, the song's amazing. So I want to
Thank you
preface
so
with
much.
that. I want to preface with that. But what I really love about this entire process is the visuals, like the the social media post that's up on your Instagram right now looks really cool. The cover art looks really cool, and even the header, I guess it's called the header on Spotify. Like you nailed it. It's
Thank you
awesome.
so much. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
It's Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask. So it was that something that you thought of, or do you work with somebody that kind of has more of a visual eye when it comes to that sort of thing?
I have a lot of help from my friend Ashley, actually. Her
Okay.
name's Ashley Alferman, and she is in the business side. And she's been incredibly helpful to me with, marketing strategies and
Mm,
just different ideas, and, how to catch people's attention with things. And, she's helped me come up with a whole marketing plan, which has been great. And, I'm really grateful to have her in my corner because, obviously we can't do this,
yeah,
artist or songwriter career alone. It
yeah.
takes a village. So she's been instrumental in that process. And I I love designing things. I am always on my computer. I've always loved taking photos
Mm.
and, just creating visuals around different photos. So, and fonts. I'm a huge fan of fonts. I love them. I think they're magical. And
We
I
need to have a completely different discussion because I am like, for whatever reason, when it comes to graphic designing and just building out the aesthetic of something, unless it's already a predetermined like style, like we're doing a live podcast thing that's kind of going Old West theme. And so that's already got a kind of a predetermined look. But if I'm sitting here trying to build something from scratch, my font always looks really weird or out of place. So we need to have a completely different conversation.
I can definitely give you some tips if you need. It's something that I just love submerging myself
Mm,
in. It's a different creative avenue. I grew up loving doing arts and crafts
mhm,
as kind of a hobby on the side of music. And, this has become a whole new thing for me, to create, my own content this way. And I love it. It's a hobby, but it's also, helping my career. So
mm.
two in one, two birds with one stone.
Nice, nice. That's really cool. I do have to ask the mountain photo that's the header on your Spotify. Is that in Nash or in Tennessee, or is that somewhere?
That's somewhere else.
Okay.
I have to be honest, I do not know where that is, and I know that's a lame answer.
It's fair. It's fair.
But I spent a lot of time combing through photos
Mhm.
because I really needed them to be bright and hopeful, just like the theme of the song, and with the road, and it had to be perfect and just
Yeah.
emulating this, bright, romantic future. And it just, how important the
Yeah.
visuals are, of course. But yeah, I tried to choose, an array of different photos
Yeah.
too. Not only just road, but road with different seasons
Hmm.
around it, to make it more interesting because, you're loving somebody every mile all year.
Hmm.
So, it's really cool being able to use my creative eye as somebody who also, is a fan of photography to find those photos.
Hmm. And what's crazy now about like Photoshop and stuff like that is I was waiting for you to say, "Oh, it's AI generated," because I've done that before. So for my day job, I work in TV marketing, so like I build like TV commercials and stuff like that.
That's so
And
cool.
I was doing a ad this morning actually for a fair that's going on here in Central Texas, and they have a whole bunch of musicians that are playing, which is really cool. But one of the photos they sent me wasn't the right aspect ratio that I needed, so I took the AI generative tool and just built out the rest of the photo. And one of the guys messaged me was like, "Hey man, would you? Oh, stop Zoom. What'd you do to our photo? Why does it look like the place that we actually shot it at, but we didn't actually shoot that part?" And I'm like, that's the skill set, I guess. So,
Oh my gosh. Well, it's just crazy watching how much the music industry has changed with
mhm,
AI too.
right.
I'm sure you've heard all about that.
Oh yeah. Oh yes. It's hectic. It's very hectic. So, with every mile out right now, what's kind of the plan as you look into the summer? It's so weird that we're already talking about the summer and it's here.
I know. I mean, it's just 2024 is flying by, which, I mean, I love looking towards the future, but it's also in some ways going way too fast.
Hmm.
So, I'm really excited. I'm going to be doing a lot more performing. Like I said before, I have a fellow guitarist that I'm collaborating with now,
That's
and we're going to be doing sets together, duo sets. And I haven't announced it yet, so I don't want to give like out all the details.
yeah.
But yeah, I'm super excited about that. We're going to be creating a lot more content and just performing songs together that feel really good, and music that I'm inspired by, and on both the rock and the pop and the country sides.
Nice.
So that's going to be awesome. And of course we're going to be doing my original stuff too. So it's going to be Space was my debut single
Hmm.
that I released in 2023, and Every Mile, and this upcoming new music that I will, reveal more details about very soon.
Okay.
But yeah, it's super exciting, and I am going to be doing a lot more co-writing, of course, because
That's
always
the
got to be
big thing in
creative.
Nashville. Yeah, and it's
Absolutely. And yeah, this is the town for it. But let's see, what else am I going to be up to? I'm going to be going to a lot of shows. I'm
mhm.
going to probably at least a day of CMA Fest.
Okay.
I'm going to Arlington for Chris Stapleton the next
Nice.
weekend, so gonna try not to make myself pass
Right.
out.
Right.
But that's gonna be super awesome. I might have a performance, the weekend of the fest, so that would
Hmm.
be super exciting. But yeah, just gonna be creating a lot more content, and I'm excited.
Nice. I'll be on the lookout for you at CMA Fest. I made a great slash terrible decision. So we've started building out this idea of doing the podcast live, like as live in front of an audience and stuff like that, because that seems to be the cool thing to do now. So we kind of put a little thing together, and the birth of the idea was to do it the night before CMA Fest in Nashville. I found a venue that was like super down to do it, and so we're doing it, except now people are seeing what we're doing and they want us to come to their city or whatever.
Oh
And
no.
the weekend before, like a dum dum, I said that I would go to Muscle Shoals, Alabama, which is about 2.5 hours south of Nashville.
Oh
And so
no.
it's like, cool, I have to make essentially two trips to Nashville now, but it'll be fine. I'll make it work. So
I mean, you're trying to do it all, and for the music, right?
yeah. Oh yeah. It well, and I see it as the future. Like, because I mean, it's what we're doing is really cool, and a lot of people have been asking about us doing stuff like this for a very long time. And for whatever reason, this year it's just kind of like the opportunities kind of presented itself. And so it's like, you know what? I'm going to figure out how to make it work. So we're going to do it.
Good for
So,
you. That
yeah.
sounds awesome.
Yeah. Um, so obviously busy summer for you, a lot of shows, a lot of co-writes, a lot of traveling, it seems like. When you need a moment to kind of decompress, what do you like to do?
I love to watch crime shows. I'm a
Nice.
huge mystery crime junkie.
Nice.
Um, the podcasts I've heard are really huge, the true crime podcasts.
Hmm.
I'm not as much into those, but I love to watch the shows, and sometimes I get song ideas from them too. So I mean,
Nice.
bonus.
What
I am doing more reading lately too, which is good because I did stop reading a number of years ago, just for fun,
mhm.
because, as a songwriter and musician, I definitely feel a lot of pressure to just always be creating and not taking time away from that to maybe be inspired in a different way by
Nice.
something else. So, I'm definitely really excited to read more and expose myself to more stories that I could potentially write about, because reading is super important, and it's really good for the soul.
Nice.
But I love playing tennis as well. I play with my friend Ashley that I mentioned before. It's really fun. There are a couple different courts around town, so that's always a good way to get exercise. And it's just super fun, super great sport, and I think that would be it, honestly. I mean, I occasionally do arts and crafts
Nice.
still. Uh, I am going to start doing this thing soon where I'm cutting out, the booklets like on the inside of the CD,
Oh,
the
okay.
CD
Yeah.
holders. So I'm going to take the cover, like the cover of the albums, and I'm actually going to like put them into like a collage form.
Okay.
So I'm
Nice.
super excited about that. Just all the music that has inspired me. I have a lot of rock and roll
Yeah.
albums, and of course country. So I'm gonna be putting those into some sort of collage. We'll see what it turns out to
Nice.
be, but putting it up on my wall and just seeing what happens with that. But yeah, all different ways to be inspired. So yeah.
Nice. I've been trying to figure out something like a collage or something to do. Because every time we visit with bands or we have bands over or we go see bands, the one thing we always get is a sticker. Like if I buy something from them through the mail or whatever, we always get stickers. And so now I've got this basket over here full of stickers that I don't know what to do with. And it's just like, I feel bad that they're just kind of sitting here, but I really don't know what to do with them. And I've been trying to figure that out. And so, yeah,
I love stickers.
yeah, they are
Um,
really cool. But my fear has always been that once you stick them one place, you can't re-stick them somewhere else.
that's
They're not
true. Yeah.
so,
I
but
mean, maybe you could do the same kind of thing and put them on like poster board and make
mm,
like a cool collage type thing.
yeah. I was thinking about that, or the one thing I've always wanted to do is get a big old kick drum and put them on the head of the kick drum and make like a coffee table because I got on
Oh,
the
that's
backside
cool.
over here, I got like two couches, so like a coffee table would make sense. So
Yeah,
yeah.
that's a really good idea, actually.
So that's kind of where my head's at right now. And you know, but no,
Love it.
you brought up true crime stuff, which is I don't know why I got into it, but I did. Like it started with I started watching Law and Order in college. It was something I started doing when I was drinking. Like, you know.
That's
Um,
that's good stuff to watch when you're drinking.
oh yeah, oh yeah. And then it kind of once they started coming out with like the documentaries about like uh Charles Manson, just like all the serial killer stuff, and they come out with the documentaries or the not docu-series, but the where they have like actors come in and play the people. I can't think of what it's called now, but anyways, Um, that stuff's always been very interesting to me, and I will sit down on a weekend and just kind of watch whatever it is I'm feeling. So,
I'm gonna have to check some of that out for sure.
no- what is it that you're normal when you say you like watching true crime? What are you normally watching? Like, what's your go-to?
Well, I don't necessarily watch like Dateline or anything like that. It's
Hmm.
more of like the Blue Bloods,
Hmm. Yeah,
CSI,
yeah,
Miami. Very much into CSI Miami right now.
yeah.
And Equalizer, if you've seen that show, it's with Queen Latifah. She's
Mm,
awesome. Highly recommend to anyone who needs a new show.
right.
But what I love about Law and Order too, especially SVU. SVU is
Hmm.
probably one of my favorites as a part
Yep.
of that series. Is that they're obviously based off of real cases,
Hmm.
so you learn a lot about the law and all that.
Yeah. I tried to get into organized crime. I just can't do that. Like for whatever reason, it does
Really? Oh my gosh,
it
I love organized crime. I love it. I think he's so good.
yeah. No, and I definitely like Elliot Stable or Christopher Maloney. Like I like him as an actor, but for
Yeah.
whatever reason, I feel like because it's such a long story arc, with the series where it's like the first episode ties in with the final, and it's such like a long story arc. Whereas SVU, at least before this year, it was very episodic. Like you'd have like minor things that were kind of continuous throughout the show, but it wasn't like major plot points where I feel like organized crime, you're kind of seeing that.
Right.
So
Yeah, that makes
it
sense.
it was one of those things where I missed like 2 episodes. I was like, man, I really don't want to have to go back and watch those 2 episodes. So
Right. Yeah,
it,
it's hard when it's chronological like that.
yeah.
I think I'll have to start getting more into the podcast specifically for true crime because I think the reason I don't watch the shows is because
Mm-hmm.
it freaks me out a lot more than the
Oh yeah.
podcast.
Oh,
Like that'll give me nightmares.
the podcasts. See the the true crime like docu-series type stuff like Charles Manson or
Hmm.
like whoever, Jeffrey Dahmer, like all that stuff was very politicized. All that was
Hmm.
very like unique situations and to like the extremes. What scares me about the true crime podcasts is these are stories nobody's ever heard before,
That's so
and it
true.
it could literally be anybody. Like it could have been
Yeah.
your neighbor that got,
Yeah.
like, and that's what scares me about the podcast.
That's crazy. Oh my
So
gosh.
yeah, I was into it for a little bit, like because I was doing a lot of traveling. So I'd have like a whole bunch of podcasts that I'd listen to, and anytime those came on, there was a couple where it's like, okay, that hits a little too close to home.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Wow.
So
Wow.
yeah.
Sometimes Law and Order even as graphic as it can sometimes
Oh
be
yeah.
is easier to watch than
Oh
that.
yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So no, that's really cool. I very rarely get to talk about the true crime side of, like, I don't know what it is, but I just enjoy it. Um so looking forward, you got a whole bunch of shows, you're doing co-writes, hopefully some more music coming out here soon. What's keeping you motivated right now? What's your main motivator?
My main motivator. I mean, a lot of different things can go into that. I think just releasing stuff that I'm proud of, like especially on the performance side, I've always loved impacting people in that way,
Mhm.
aside from the release music, um, because, it really builds my confidence as a writer and a musician, to get up in front of people and, just pour my heart out on stage. And it's something that, I've loved doing for years, with the anthem as well. And, I think just obviously the love of the creation, getting in the writing room, with new people and seeing what we can create and looking at the songs that I'm working on my own right now and, thinking about where I could see those songs one day because, I do write a lot of different types of songs, whether they're for myself or, I have a couple songs that could potentially be for sync. I have a couple songs that, could go to other artists. And, most of the stuff I write, of course, is for me and, my artist project eventually. But it's just really cool to sit down and the possibilities are endless. And I think just every day that I, come home from work and I practice my vocals, of course. I look at those songs that I'm going to be performing with my guitarist soon, and I take notes. I look at the way that they've impacted so many people, and they inspire me so much to write my own songs that will impact people in the future. And I've already seen that happening with the songs that I have out now, which I'm really grateful for all the support that I've gotten on that end, not only from friends and family, but just people in Nashville who, stop and listen because
Mhm.
that is so important for especially me as an independent artist to have that support and even just one more stream because the
Yeah.
one more stream will lead to the 10, the 20, the 30 more streams.
Mhm.
So it's, obviously a journey, but music has always impacted me in this special way since I was a child
Mhm.
that that keeps me going every day because I'm I'm doing it for that and I'm not it's important to remember what it's about for sure.
Yeah, for sure. It's always important to, I don't want to say stay grounded, but I feel like that's probably the most accurate way to kind of explain it, although it feels very cliche.
I think so too.
So, um, but I did want to say before we wrap this up, I really respect the hustle. Like I've had the opportunity, we've been following or been interacting for a few months now at this point on Instagram and whatnot, and getting to see, everything that you're doing over there on social media, and then transitioning over to Spotify as I was preparing for the podcast to see all the support that you're getting and the monthly listens and like just being so young in your career, but seeing all this early success. That's so amazing. I'm so proud, and I can't wait to see where the next song goes and the next 20 of them go.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. That's very kind.
Yeah. So if anybody wants to check out your music, interact with you on social, catch a show, where's the best place to find you?
Arianna Pappas Music on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, and then unfortunately, Twitter and or X will not allow me to fit in the music at the end of my name. So it has to be Arianna Pappas 27 because I just hate underscores personally. I don't know who can relate to that, but I chose to make it a number because why not? But yeah, Arianna Pappas Music on Instagram and TikTok, which I feel like are the most important ones that people should know. I'm announcing shows, I'm announcing new music, I'm, sharing things about my life. I'm asking for, feedback and just all the things, all the
Nice.
things. You
Yes.
you may see a mountain picture or two.
Fair.
So yeah, I would really appreciate any follows I could get, any
Yeah.
support. Again, it means a lot as an independent artist.
Yeah, for sure. Are you on Threads as well, or
I am, yes, yes.
okay?
I forgot about that one. It's fairly new, so
Eh, I don't know. I feel like Threads is kind of, it had its moment. I just don't know if it's going to stick around.
That is valid. That is
It,
valid.
it's yeah. We'll leave that for another time. But Arianna Pappas, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. Thank you everybody for tuning in. If you want to support and listen to Every Mile or any of Ariana's new music, we will have her Spotify link in the description below. If you're listening on Spotify or on YouTube, it'll be in the description below. Uh, Feel free to give her a follow and all that fun stuff. And yeah, once again, thank you all so very much, and we will catch you all later.